機関車トーマス。トーマスはヒーローというお話。トーマスはとても役に立つ機関車だ。誰かが困っているとトーマスはいつでも助けに駆けつける。そのおかげで混乱と遅れが生じたりすることなく時間通りに荷物が届けられるのだ。ある日、トーマスがメイスウェイト駅にいるとトップハムハット卿がパーシーに乗ってやってきた。
トーマス、とても大切なお客様を迎えに行ってくれたまえ。そのお客様は消防士でヒーローなんだ。なんと妻の猫を救ってくれた恩人だ。
ヒーローなんですか？
彼を表彰してメダルを贈るんだ。
トーマスは消防士を迎えに出発した。彼はワクワクした。本物のヒーローに会えるのだ。トーマスは途中のバス停で大勢の子供たちに会った。子供たちも皆興奮していた。
消防士さんに会いに行くの。バーティーが表彰式に連れてってくれるのよ。
しばらくしてトーマスは給水塔が見える場所に来た。突然その給水塔がぐらぐらと揺れ始める。トーマスはそこにダックがいるのに気づいた。
ダックの上に倒れてきちゃう。すぐなんとかしなきゃ。ダック危ない、すぐ逃げて。僕が助けたんだ。
冗談じゃない。ロッキーが僕の貨車に給水塔を乗せるところだったんだぞ。
トーマスには木の陰にいたロッキーが見えなかったのだ。
ごめんね。でも片付けを手伝えないや。消防士さんが待ってる。ヒーローだよ。
その後トーマスは木を見つけた。倒れて線路を塞いでいる。
このままだと危ないな。信号手さんに教えてあげないと。木が倒れてますよ。すぐポイントを切り替えてください。
その時ハービーが全速力で走ってきた。そしてそのまま別の線路へと進んでいく。ハービーはびっくりした。
よかった。僕はハービーを助けたんだ。これで僕もヒーローだぞ。
しかし次にトーマスが会ったのは倒れた木の後ろで動けなくなっているドナルドとダグラスだった。
ハービーに早く来ていただかないと木をどかしてくれるまで動けないのです。
トーマスは自分の間違いに気づいた。
勘違いしちゃった。ハービーはここに向かってたのか。僕はヒーローなんかじゃない。
ハービーはどこです？
ごめんね。でも探してあげる時間はないんだ。消防士さんが待ってる。ヒーローなんだよ。
それからトーマスはトビーに会った。彼は激しく煙と蒸気を上げていた。
ゴードンの急行用線路でトビーが故障してる。大変だ。ゴードンが来た。トビーをすぐ助けなきゃ。
トーマスは急いでポイントまで戻ると線路を移動した。そしてトビーの後ろ側に連結して猛スピードで引っ張っていく。
うわー、助けて
もう心配ないよトビー。
トーマスは次にそのままトビーを押していって側線に移動させた。その瞬間ゴードンがすぐ横を通り過ぎ、 トビーには気づかずに走り去った。
僕が助けたんだよ。
ゴードンは今僕のために修理する人を連れてきたのに。
トーマスはまた勘違いしたことに気づいた。
僕は誰も助けられない。ヒーローじゃないんだ。それに消防士さんのお迎えにも間に合わない。
ちょうどその時、パーシーが現れた。
僕の代わりに消防士さんを迎えに行ってくれないかい？
やったすごいや。
急がないともうすぐ表彰式が始まっちゃう。
行ってくる。
トーマスはもう何をするか分かっていた。彼はまずゴードンから修理技師を乗せ替え、トビーのところまで連れて行った。次にハービーを探しに行った。そして彼を倒れた木のところに連れて行く。ハービーはすぐに木を片付けた。トーマスは落ち込んだまま機関庫に帰ろうとした。その時彼はバスのバーティーを見つけた。子供たちはバーティーの周りで遊んでいた。
どうしたんだい？
泥にはまって動けない。このままじゃ子供たちを表彰式に連れて行けないよ。
僕が代わりに連れて行こうか。
うん、頼むよ。
子供たちが全員アニーとクララベルに乗り込むと、トーマスは急いで走り出した。トーマスは表彰式の時間ぴったりに到着した。トップハムハット教と夫人が消防士にメダルを贈った。子供たちもとても喜んだ。
あなたはヒーローよ。
私たちのヒーローはトーマスよ。
ヒーローになれたトーマスは嬉しくて笑顔になった。トーマスはヒーローというお話でした。エミリーは優等生というお話。ソドー島は大変なことになっていた。嵐が吹き荒れ、あちこちの線路が通れなくなっていたのだ。たくさんの機関車が故障していた。だがエミリーは無事にブレンダムの港に荷物を運んできた。
よくやったエミリー。こんな日でも時間通りだった。本当に君は優等生だな。
エミリーはとても誇らしくなった。
優等生ですって。嬉しい。気に入ったわ。
そしてトップハムハット卿は重要な仕事を与えた。
ジェレミーに私の母が乗っているんだが、このままでは空港に降りられない。嵐で吹き飛ばされたものが滑走路に散らばっているんだ。マッコールさんの農場へトレバーを迎えに行ってくれたまえ。彼が滑走路をきれいにしてくれれば、ジェレミーが着陸できるようになる。
お任せください。私がすべて解決します。
その時マードックがエミリーの横にやってきた。
僕もマッコールさんのところへ行くけど、あちこち水浸しだ。海側の線路がいいよ。
そんなところには行かないわ。森を通った方が早いもの。私は優等生なのよ。何の問題もないわ。
エミリーは煙を上げて森へと向かった。だがすぐに車軸まで水たまりに浸かってしまう。
絶対に止まらないわ。だって私は優等生だもん。
エミリーは水の中を進んだがとても大変だった。やっとのことで水浸しの線路を抜けたが、そのせいで時間に遅れてしまった。トーマスが分岐点で待っていた。
木が一本倒れて線路を塞いでるんだ。ハービーがどかしに来てくれる。
私は優等生なのよ。ハービーにどかしてもらわなくても大丈夫。
エミリーは倒れた木のところまでやってきた。
私ならこんなの簡単にどかせるわ。
エミリーは倒れた木を力いっぱい押し始めた。だが木は横に転がらず、エミリーの前を一緒に進んでしまった。エミリーは木を押しながら丘を登る。それはとても大変な作業で、エミリーはどんどん遅くなった。やっと丘の頂上に到着すると、木は線路脇に転がり落ちた。ようやくスピードが出せるようになった。エミリーは分岐点でダックに会った。
トレバーが待っていたよ。
心配ないわ。すぐに行くから。
ぬかるんでる線路もあるし、泥にはまって動けなくなったらもっと遅れるよ。
私は優等生よ。自分で一番いい線路を選べるわ。
ダックは少し心配だった。エミリーは全速力で村を駆け抜け、音を立てて谷を下った。
もうすぐだわ。
エミリーは猛スピードで最後のカーブを曲がった。でもその先で泥の水たまりに突っ込んでしまった。
こんなのへっちゃらよ。
その時だ。急に線路が沈み始めた。エミリーは身動きが取れなくなり、もう自分が優等生とは思えなくなってしまった。
大変。トレバーを空港に連れて行けないわ。
エミリーは線路の先にマードックがいるのに気づいた。
マードックの方が早かったのね。彼の言うことを聞いて海側の線路を走ればよかった。
エミリーは汽笛を力いっぱい鳴らした。それを聞いてマードックがやってきた。
私が間違ってたみたい。ごめんなさい。お願い、引っ張り上げてくれない？
もちろんいいとも、エミリー。
どうもありがとう、マードック。
エミリーが農場に到着するとトレバーが待っていた。
あなたをすぐに空港へ連れて行かなくっちゃ。
エミリーはピストンを動かしたが思い直して止まった。
今度はちゃんと聞かないとね。マードック、空港に行くにはどの線路がいいと思う？
ゴードンの丘の線路はまだ通れないから谷を通って行った方がいいんじゃないかな。
ありがとう、マードック。谷の線路を通っていくわね。マードックは正しいわ。
その時エミリーは電柱が線路に倒れていることに気づいた。電柱を押してどかそうと思ったエミリーはトーマスの言葉を思い出した。
ここはハービーを待った方がいいわ。
すぐにハービーが電柱を片付けてくれた。エミリーはまた走り出す。次に彼女は分岐点で止まった。まっすぐ行くともうすぐ空港だ。
そっちはぬかるんでるぞ。
エミリーはダックが言っていたことを思い出した。
二度と泥にはまりたくない。遠回りして行った方がいいわ。
エミリーはすぐ空港に到着した。早速トレバーが滑走路を片付ける。ちょうどその時ジェレミーが滑走路に着陸した。トップハムハット今日はお母さんに会えてとても喜んだ。
やはり君は優等生だな、エミリー。よく時間に間に合った。
それはみんなが助けてくれたからです。ソド島の機関車はみんなが優等生ですよ。
エミリーは優等生というお話でした。ジェームスの体当たりというお話。ジェームスはピカピカの赤い機関車だ。いつもおしゃれで目立ちたがる。いつも全力で働いている。 自分が物知りだということをみんなに自慢するのが大好きだった。ソドー島には冬が訪れていた。トーマスとスタンリーとジェームスは操車場でグレートウォータートンへ運ぶための貨車を入れ替えていた。時間通りに作業をしなければならない。スタンリーはジェームスの仕事ぶりを見ていた。ジェームスは体当たりでふざける貨車を入れ替えている。
君の体当たりは一番上手だね。
今のは大したことないさ。僕はあの重いヘクターだって入れ替えられる。
ジェームスはヘクターを押していった。スタンリーはジェームスがヘクターを移動させる様子を見ていた。辺りには雪が降り始めた。
僕はもう出発しなきゃ。グレートウォータートンで会おう。
雪が降り始めたぞ。出かける前に天気を確認しないと。
ジェームスは貨車に指示されたくなかった。特にみんなのいる前では嫌だった。
どうするかは僕が決めるよ。雪なんてへっちゃらさ。
ジェームスは貨車を押してゆっくりと操車場を出ていった。雪はどんどんひどくなっていく。ジェームスは信号で止まった。ハロルドが急降下してきた。
ソド島はどこも天気が悪いよ。雪で線路が見えなくなってきてる。
ヘンリーのトンネルを通るべきだな。
ジェームスはムッとした。貨車に指示されたくなかった。特にハロルドの前では嫌だった。
どうするかは僕が決めるよ。線渓谷を通る線路が一番早くつけるさ。
信号が変わるとジェームスは蒸気を吹き上げ走り出した。ジェームスはシェン渓谷の分岐点までやってきた。雪が激しく降っていたのでジェームスは周りがよく見えなくなった。そのせいで彼は違う線路に進んでしまった。ジェームスはシェン渓谷を走っていると思っていたが、本当は雪の積もった丘へと向かっていた。ジェームスはエドワードが側線にいるのを見つけた。彼は雪かきをつけていた。
この先の線路は氷ですごく滑るから、そのままじゃ丘を登ったりできないよ。
ジェームスはこの先が丘だと聞いてびっくりした。
きっと線路を間違えたんだ。
あちこちの線路で雪かきが必要になってる。
ジェームスは不安になった。
エドワードに助けてもらおう。彼を一番前につないで雪かきするんだ。
だがジェームスは貨車に指示されたくなかった。特にエドワードの前では嫌だった。
どうするかは僕が決めるよ。きっと僕だけでも大丈夫さ。
ジェームスは息を切らしながら力を振り絞って丘を登った。彼の顔はボイラーのように真っ赤だ。でもなんとか丘の頂上に到着した。彼は嬉しくなって笑った。
ここからは一気に降りられるぞ。
その時だ。前にいたヘクターは雪崩の雪が線路を塞いでいることに気づいた。ジェームスが丘を降りてスピードを落としたら吹きだまりにはまってしまうだろう。
そのまま進むんだ。スピードを落としちゃダメだぞ。
だがジェームスは貨車に指示されるのが嫌でたまらなかった。
どうするかは僕が決めるよ。
ブレーキをかけて雪にはまってしまったジェームスは落ち込んだ。
おバカで間抜けなジェームス君、雪から出られずさあ大変。
ちゃんと天気を確認してから出かけなかったこと、シェン渓谷を通ろうと思ったこと、エドワードに頼まなかったこと、すべてが失敗だった。
ヘクターは僕を助けようとしてくれてたんだな。 るさい。ごめんよヘクター。どうすればここから抜け出せるかな。
ヘクターは嬉しくなった。
僕はすごく重いから君と僕が一緒になって全速力で丘を下ろう。そのまま体当たりして雪の向こうに押し出すんだ。
それはいい考えだね。
行くぞジェームス、進め。
ヘクターとジェームスはスピードを上げて丘を下った。彼らは思い切り体当たりすると雪の中から貨車を押し出した。
やったぞ。うまく体当たりできたよヘクター。
グレートウォータートンにはすでにトーマスとスタンリーがいた。そこへヘクターとジェームスが無事に到着した。
間に合ったね。
心配してたよ。
何も心配なかった。ヘクターが助けてくれたからね。
トーマスとスタンリーはびっくりした。
いい貨車はいつも頼りになるのさ。
ヘクターは褒められて嬉しかった。そしてジェームスは新しい友達ができて嬉しかった。ジェームスの体当たりというお話でした。命令の汽笛というお話。ソドー島は夏を迎えていた。トップハムハット卿はジェニーさんとグレートウォータートンにやってきていた。新しい野外ステージを作っているのだ。今日はここでブラスバンドの演奏がある。トップハムハット卿が夫人に内緒でサプライズ演奏会を計画したのだ。特別な一日にするために機関車たちも忙しく働いた。エドワードは特別な小包を運んでいた。トーマスは飾り用の旗を運んでいた。そしてパーシーは歩道に敷く砂利を運んでいた。
ありがとうパーシー。時間ぴったりだ。
パーシーは貨車を移動させようとしたが、彼らはいたずらを始めてパーシーを困らせた。
言うことなんか聞くもんか。
パーシーは何回も押したが貨車たちは動かない。こういう時には命令の汽笛を使わなければならないと彼は知っていた。そこでパーシーは汽笛を長く大きく鳴らした。貨車たちも命令の汽笛を聞いた時はちゃんと従わなければならないと分かっていた。すぐに貨車たちは整列したが、その時トップハムハット卿が近づいてきた。
今の汽笛はうるさすぎましたか？
気にしなくていいぞ。貨車を従わせるための汽笛だ。
パーシーはほっとした。
メイスウェイト駅で待っている私の妻を迎えに行ってくれたまえ。ティータイムに間に合わせるんだ。分かったね。
わかりました。
何があるか知られてはダメだぞ。サプライズ演奏会だからな。
分かってます。内緒にします。
パーシーはトップハムハット卿夫人を迎えにメイスウェイト駅へと向かった。グレートウォータートンからは離れた場所だ。しばらくしてパーシーはメイスウェイト駅に到着した。
どうぞ乗ってください。お迎えに来ました。特別な旅にお連れしますよ。
ああ、特別な旅だなんて素敵ね。じゃあ最初はカモの池へ連れて行ってちょうだい。
夫人は客車に乗り込んだ。パーシーは困った。特別な旅とは夫人を野外ステージへ連れて行くことだった。カモの池に寄る時間などないと分かっていたが、夫人には言えなかった。 演奏会のことは内緒だ。そこでパーシーはカモの池に向かった。夫人はカモの池のほとりに立った。彼女はカモを見るのが好きだった。カモたちはガーガー泣いている。でもパーシーは早く出発したかった。ようやく夫人が客車に戻ってくれた。
次は風車を見に行きたいわ。
パーシーはとても困った。彼は風車による時間がないと分かっていたが、夫人にそう言える勇気はなかった。パーシーは仕方なく走り出した。風車の前に到着すると、そこにはダスティさんがいた。夫人は彼に会えて喜んだ。
こんにちは、ダスティ。お元気？
これ以上ゆっくりしてたら本当に遅れちゃう。
夫人がやっとダスティさんと話し終わった。
ねえパーシー、今度は森でブルーベルの花を見たいわ。特別な旅の終わりにぴったりよ。
パーシーはとことん困り果ててしまった。パーシーは森へ向かった。走れば走るほど会場への到着は遅れ、サプライズ演奏会の野外ステージから離れるばかりだった。パーシーとトップハムハット卿夫人は森に到着した。夫人はブルーベルを見るためパーシーから離れる。パーシーはひたすら夫人が戻るのを待った。そこへトーマスがやってきた。
どこに行ってたんだいパーシー。トップハムハット卿が怒ってるよ。夫人が遅れたら困るってさ。
パーシーはトップハムハット卿を困らせたくなかったし、サプライズ演奏会も成功させたかった。
大丈夫、ちゃんと時間までに行くよ。頑張って。
トーマスはその場を走り去った。夫人がどこにいるのかパーシーには分からなかった。でも彼はこういう時こそ命令の汽笛を鳴らす時だと知っていた。ようやく夫人が森から出てきた。
パーシー、何かあったの？
サプライズの会場にお連れします。それが特別な旅です。
まあ、サプライズは大好きよ。なぜ行き先を変えたの？
僕が命令したら怒られると思ったんです。だけどもう時間に遅れそうだから急がなくちゃ。
夫人は急いで客車に乗り込んだ。パーシーは全速力で走り出した。パーシーはできるだけ急いでグレートウォータートンへ戻った。ブラスバンドはまだ音合わせ中だった。ジャックとアルフィーはとてもワクワクしていた。パーシーは約束の時間通りに到着した。ブラスバンドが演奏を始める。トップハムハット卿夫人はとても喜んだ。
なんて素敵なサプライズなのかしら。連れてきてくれてありがとう、パーシー。
演奏会のことを内緒にしてくれてありがとう。
パーシーは嬉しかった。命令の汽笛が彼を救ったのだ。汽笛は本当に役に立った。もちろんパーシーもだ。命令の汽笛というお話でした。
Thomas and the billboard. Knapford is the biggest station on the island of Solon. All the engines love its bustling busyness. Today was a very special day. It was Knapford Station's birthday, and there was going to be a grand party. All the engines were very excited. They were to have their photograph taken. The photograph was going to be put up on a billboard. Thomas felt very proud. I've never been on a billboard before. But the photographer was having trouble fitting all the engines into the photograph.
Move back a bit there, James. And you forward, Percy. Yes, that's good, that's good. Now, Diesel, can you move in?
Diesel moved in. The camera flashed. Thomas didn't know that Diesel had rolled right in front of him. and neither did Diesel. Later that day, Thomas puffed into Maron Station to pick up the new billboard. He was very excited. But when Thomas saw it, he was very disappointed. Diesel's right in front of me, Thomas thought sadly. No one can see me at all. Thomas puffed towards Knapford. Diesel moved in front of me on purpose, puffed Thomas to himself. Thomas felt cross. He wasn't looking where he was going. Then there was trouble. There was a cow on the line. Thomas turned quickly into a siding just in time. He hit the buffers and the billboard flew into the lake. Thomas went to tell the photographer what had happened. Don't worry, I'll take another photograph. Tell all the engines to meet me at Tidmouth Sheds. Thomas was about to set off. Then he saw Diesel. Thomas knew he should tell Diesel about the new photograph, but Thomas was worried. What if Diesel spoils this one too, thought Thomas. So Thomas didn't tell Diesel. Soon all the engines except Diesel were back at Tidmouth. Gordon was cross. Mr. Giggles, the famous clown, is coming to the party tonight. I must collect him from the airport. I must not be late. And I have to pick up the brass band from Brendam Docks. And I have to collect the bunting and decorations from Wellsworth. OK, I'll fetch the photographer right away. Thomas was steaming to Maron. Then he saw Diesel. Diesel was puffing straight to Tidmouth. Thomas was worried. Now Diesel would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas turned onto a branch line and he raced back to Tidmouth. There's been a mistake. You'll all have to come back later. The engines were very cross. Soon they had all gone, and Diesel trundled straight by. Later, Thomas had gathered the engines again. Then Thomas went to Maron to collect the photographer. Just as the photographer was climbing on board, Thomas saw Diesel. Now Diesel would see the photographer, and he would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas wheeshed lots of steam. It billowed from his boiler and filled the whole station. So Diesel didn't see the photographer, and he trundled straight by. The steam has made my camera wet. I'm sorry, sir. We'll have to wait for it to dry. Tell the engines to come back later to Tidmouth. So all the engines came back later, instead of doing their jobs. At last the photographer was ready. No one had noticed Diesel wasn't there. Thomas was very relieved. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere. No one told me there was another photograph. But I asked Thomas to tell everyone. All the engines looked at Thomas. Thomas felt terrible. The fat controller was very cross. Gordon, you were meant to pick up Mr. Giggles, the famous clown. Emily, you were meant to pick up the brass band. And James, you were meant to pick up the bunting and decorations. None of you arrived, so Diesel had to do all your jobs. And now he is late to do his own work. Thomas was very upset. It's all my fault, sir. I didn't want Diesel to know about the new photograph. In the last one, he moved right in front of me, on purpose. I did not. The photographer told me to move. I did. Perhaps you rolled too far. Thomas knew then he'd made a mistake. I'm sorry, Diesel. I was wrong to think you did it on purpose. And I'm very sorry for causing all this trouble, sir. Soon all the engines were lined up. The new photograph was taken. Sir, if I do all Diesel's jobs, can he collect a new billboard? That's a wonderful idea, Thomas. Diesel agreed. For the rest of the day, Thomas worked hard. He did all Diesel's jobs. And Diesel picked up the new billboard, just in time for the celebrations. It was a wonderful party. There were clowns and a brass band. Diesel and Thomas agreed that the new billboard was the best billboard they'd ever seen. Steady Edward. Edward is one of the oldest engines on the island of Soda. Edward may not always be the fastest engine, but he certainly is the steadiest. And for the Fat Controller, a steady engine is a really useful engine. One morning, Edward puffed into the docks. Good morning. Then the Fat Controller arrived. The brand new brass water wheel has just arrived from the mainland. It is magnificent. It'll be displayed by the waterworks at Great Waterton. Emily, Gordon and Edward were very excited. They couldn't wait to see the magnificent water wheel. Edward, you will deliver the water wheel to Great Waterton. Edward beamed from buffer to boiler. Gordon and Emily were surprised. I've chosen you, Edward, because you are the steadiest engine. You are to take the express line. It is the smoothest and most direct way to Great Waterton. Gordon gasped. Edward was to use his express line. Frankie lowered the water wheel onto Edward's flatbed. It had a shiny brass rim that shone in the sun. Everyone looked at the magnificent water wheel. Edward the Steady is at the ready. And very slowly, Edward pushed his special out of the docks. Edward puffed up to the junction for the express line. Thomas was waiting. Bust my buffers, Edward. That's a very special. Edward was very happy. He looked ahead. If he took the express line, he couldn't stop for people to admire his magnificent water wheel. But if he took the other track, he could stop at stations and bridges and sidings. A lot of people would see his special. The signal changed. Edward didn't take the express line. Edward was having a wonderful time. He went past stations, under bridges, and past farms. Everyone cheered and waved. Edward the Steady was now Edward the Magnificent. Edward arrived at the junction. The track ahead is in need of repair. But the track ahead led to the school. Edward wanted the school children to see him, so he chuffed on towards the broken track. The track was very bumpy and jumpy. The shiny brass edge of the wheel started to cut into the ropes. But Edward didn't know. At the school, children cheered and waved. Edward wasn't looking at the red signal. Flatten my fender! Edward applied his brakes, but too late. The shiny brass edge of the water wheel cut even deeper through the ropes. Edward knew now that his long journey had made him late. Then he had an idea. I will chuff up Gordon's Hill, Edward thought. It's the fastest way to Great Waterton, and he huffed to himself. The other engines on the hill will all see my special. Edward chuffed and huffed up Gordon's hill. Oliver and Arthur passed him coming down. They both thought his special was magnificent. But the water wheel was very heavy. Edward huffed and puffed up the hill. At last he reached the top. But the edges of the water wheel were cutting deeper and deeper into the ropes. Then there was trouble. With a final jolt, the ropes broke. The magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. For fizzling fireboxes! Gordon was further down the hill with flatbeds of scrap iron. The water wheel rolled down the hill. It bounced onto Gordon's flatbed. Now Edward's magnificent water wheel was on its way to the smelters. Edward had to get to the smelter's yard before Gordon. Edward puffed and Edward panted along every shortcut he knew. No one saw Edward pass, and no one stopped to wave. That no longer mattered to Edward. He had to save his magnificent water wheel from the smelters. Gordon puffed slowly into the smelter's yard. He pulled up outside the smelting shed. Then suddenly, there was Edward. Gordon was surprised. Edward the Steady had won his race against the fastest engine on Sodor. The magnificent water wheel was once again tied down to Edward's flatbed. Edward the Steady once more at the ready. And his wheels clickety-clacked without a crunch or a crack, or a cheer or a clap along the way. The water wheel was put into place. It looks grand. It looks magnificent. And Edward didn't need anyone else to tell him that his had been a very special special. Rosie's Funfair Special. Rosie is a lively little tank engine. She is very quick. She also likes to be very busy. Any job is a good job for Rosie. One day, Rosie and Emily were at Knapford Station. The Fat Controller had some important news. The Funfair train is waiting at Brendam Docks. Rosie was excited. She hoped the Fat Controller would ask her to pull the Funfair train. Emily, you must pull the Funfair Special. Rosie was disappointed. Rosie, you must be Emily's back engine. Rosie didn't want to be the back engine. She wanted to pull the Funfair Special on her own. I have a lot to do today. After we pull the Funfair Special, I have to collect milk from High Farm. Rosie puffed sadly along. She wished she could pull the special on her own. Then Rosie had an idea. If she arrived at the docks before Emily, she could take the Funfair Special. Then Emily could puff straight to Hill Farm. That would really help Emily. So Rosie raced off as fast as her pistons would pump. Rosie puffed alongside the Funfair Special. This is a very long train. Rosie couldn't see that Emily was already coupled up and waiting for Rosie. Rosie quickly coupled up to the Funfair Special. Emily will be pleased, she thought. Still, Rosie didn't know that Emily was on the other end of the train. Then there was trouble. Rosie huffed and puffed, she heaved and hauled, the couplings groaned and strained until one of them snapped. Hooray! I'm pulling the funfair special! But Rosie had left half of it behind with Emily. Rosie puffed proudly along. The children were very excited to see Rosie pulling the funfair special. That made Rosie happy. Then there was trouble. Another coupling snapped. Up ahead, Bertie was carrying children to the funfair. Rosie chuffed by. Bertie started to toot his horn. He's tooting at my funfair special, thought Rosie. But Bertie was tooting because the coconut truck was rolling toward the level crossing. It smashed against the gate. Coconuts rolled everywhere. The level crossing was blocked, but Rosie didn't know. She puffed happily on. Then another coupling snapped. Rosie passed Stepney in a siding. Stepney was waiting to puff onto the main line. The points changed. Stepney blew his whistle loudly. He's whistling at my funfair special, thought Rosie proudly. But Stepney was whistling because the truck of sugar was now rolling towards him. Stepney was covered in pink sugar from funnel to footplate. But Rosie didn't know. She puffed proudly on. Rosie steamed up Gordon's Hill. Another coupling snapped. She heard an engine's whistle. They're whistling at my funfair special too, Rosie thought happily. But it was Emily with the rest of the funfair trucks. Rosie's flatbed was now rolling back towards Emily. It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. Emily was stuck. Rosie chuffed cheerfully into Maithwaite Station. Nobody waved or whistled. The fat controller was cross. I told you to be Emily's back engine. But I brought the funfair special all on my own, sir. I wanted to help Emily. You haven't helped anyone. You have caused confusion and delay. You've left half the train. Now there will be no funfair for the children. Rosie felt terrible. She had wanted everyone to be proud of her, and now they were cross. Please, sir, I know just what to do. I'm a very quick engine. I can collect all the trucks. Then I'll be Emily's back engine, and we will deliver the funfair special in time. So Rosie whooshed off as fast as her wheels would wear. First, Rosie collected Rocky. Then she pulled them as quickly as she could to Emily. Emily's tracks were still blocked. I'm so sorry, Emily. I only wanted to help you. Rocky will clear the line. I will collect the other trucks. Then we can deliver the funfair special together. Thank you, Rosie. Rosie left Rocky and she raced away to collect the first truck. She picked up the coconut truck. Then Rosie collected a new truck of sugar and she raced back to Emily. Rosie had been very quick. Rocky had just loaded the seats back onto the flatbed. I'm ready to be your back engine now. And together they set off up Gordon's Hill. Rosie and Emily arrived at Maithwaite. All the children waved at the two engines. We have delivered the funfair special in time. That evening, Rosie and Emily watched the children at the funfair. The children were having a wonderful time. I hope we can work together on another special. The sooner the better. Working with you is best of all. Rosie couldn't have felt happier. Henry gets it wrong. The Sodor wishing tree is a very old tree. It's older than Edward, older than Sir Handel. It's even older than the Fat Controller. Some say it's the oldest thing on the island. All the engines and children love to make wishes whenever they see the tree. Especially Henry. He thinks the wishing tree is magical. He whistles whenever he passes. One day the Fat Controller arrived with some very bad news. A summer storm struck Sodor last night. The wishing tree was hit by lightning. All the engines were upset. Henry was the most upset of all. Some special woodsmen are arriving at Brendam Docks. Henry, you must take them to the wishing tree right away. Henry knew this was an important job. They have to be back at Brendam Docks by tea time. That's when their boat leaves. Yes, sir. And Henry puffed away as fast as he could. He chuffed towards Brendam Docks. At a junction, Henry decided to take the track that passed the wishing tree. Henry arrived at the wishing tree. It wasn't standing tall anymore. Some leaves were gone and some branches were broken. Sometimes, Henry, special woodsmen have to cut trees down. Oh, no. Now Henry was even more upset. Henry took the track to Brendam. His boiler bubbled and his steam sighed. But then he had to stop. Toby was blocking the line. He had snapped a piston rod. Oh dear, I can't get to Brendam if the track is blocked. Then Henry had an idea. If all the tracks were blocked, no one would be able to get to the tree, he thought. Then no one would be able to cut the tree down. I'll take your trucks for you, Toby. He buffered up to Toby's truck. Toby's driver coupled Henry to the trucks. Henry pumped his pistons and chuffed back down the track to the wishing tree. Then Henry saw Thomas at a signal. He had a long line of empty trucks to take to the quarry. I'll take your trucks for you, Thomas. Thomas happily agreed. So Henry reversed onto Thomas's track, and he slowly wheeshed away. Then Henry saw Percy at a water tower. Percy had to take truckloads of empty milk churns to the farm. Percy, I'll take your trucks for you. Thank you, Henry. Percy shunted his trucks onto the main line. Henry buffered up to Percy's trucks and whooshed away. Then Henry saw Emily. She had empty trucks to take to the coaling plant. I'll take your trucks for you, Emily. Thank you, Henry. So Emily shunted her train onto the main line. And Henry coupled up. He chuffed happily away. Henry had the longest line of trucks a big engine could pull. At last Henry puffed to the Wishing Tree Junction. He left Emily and Percy's trucks on one track. Then he shunted Thomas's trucks onto another. Finally, he shunted Toby's trucks onto the express line. All the lines to the Wishing Tree were blocked. Now nobody can get through. The Wishing Tree will be safe. At Brendam Docks, the special woodsmen were waiting. Henry hadn't arrived. so the dock's manager asked Salty to take the woodsman.
Aye, yes, sir.
Salty tried to get to the wishing tree, but all the tracks were blocked with trucks. Henry was still feeling very happy. Then he heard Harold hovering over him.
Henry, old chap.
The special woodsman can't get through to the wishing tree. They're the only ones that can help. Without them, the tree will have to be cut down. Oh dear, the woodsmen are here to save the wishing tree, not cut it down. I have made a very big mistake. Henry felt terrible. Now I must put everything right as fast as I can. And he chuffed quickly away. First, Henry took Toby's trucks to the depot. Then he took Thomas's trucks to the quarry. Next, he took Emily's trucks to the coaling plant. Finally, he took Percy's trucks of empty milk churns to the farm. At last, all the tracks were clear. Henry collected the special woodsman. Thank you, Salty. Then he wheeshed quickly away. Soon, Henry chuffed up to the wishing tree. The woodsmen were ready to start their very special work. They cleared and propped. They clipped and chopped. And Henry helped too. Soon the wishing tree was standing tall again. The wishing tree was saved. I wish the wishing tree would last forever and ever. The special woodsman cheered, and Henry smiled his biggest smile ever. Heave-ho, Thomas. Thomas is a busy and cheery engine as he puffs and huffs across the island. He always toots hello to other engines and to children along the way, even when Thomas is pulling heavy loads. One morning, Thomas puffed into Brendam Docks. The Fat Controller was waiting. You are all here to welcome the new engine. His name is Hank. I've heard he's very special.
I've heard he's very strong.
Hank puffed into the docks. Hank was very special. He had red wheels and a bright red cowcatcher, and he was very tall. The engines had never seen an engine like Hank before.
Hank looks as strong as a giant.
I'm sure he isn't stronger than a Sodor engine. Now, Thomas, I have 3 jobs for you. First, you must take new machines from the docks to the factory. Then you are to pick up stone from the quarry and deliver it to the shunting yard. And lastly, you must pick up an old tractor from Farmer McCall's and take it to the repair yard. Yes, sir. And you must take Hank with you. Hank must see the important sights of Sodor. Be back by tea time for Hank's welcome party at Knapford. Thomas buffered up to the machine trucks. Hank chuffed alongside. Hello.
Howdy, Thomas. Now you look like one of the finest little engines I've ever seen.
Thomas didn't like being called little. I'm a tank engine. Thomas thought Hank was being cheeky.
Those trucks are way too heavy for you. Let me take them for you.
Hank meant to be helpful, but it made Thomas cross. No, thank you. I'm strong enough to pull much heavier loads than this.
I'd be happy to help.
But Thomas was already puffing out of the docks. At the signal, Thomas didn't take the track to the factory. He chuffed straight to the quarry. Thomas pulled ahead. I may not be grand, and I may not be long, but I will show Hank that I'm stronger than strong, he huffed to himself. Thomas and Hank puffed into the quarry. Now I'm going to pick up the stone trucks. Hank was surprised. Hold your huffing there, Thomas. Let big old Hank take those trucks for you. No, thank you. Tank engines can pull very heavy loads. So Thomas heaved and huffed out of the quarry. Thomas wheezed and wheeshed. Handsome Hank gleamed and glowed by his side. Children waved from bridges. Hello, Thomas. Howdy, good to see you. Hey, Thomas, aren't you gonna whistle hello? Thomas hadn't the puff to whistle hello. Hank had plenty of puff. This made Thomas feel even crosser. Thomas pulled up to the halt. He was nearly out of puff. Hello, Farmer McCall. This is Hank. He's the new engine on Sodor. Howdy, Farmer McCall. That's a mighty fine tractor you have. Say, Thomas, you look all out of puff and pull. I'll take it for you. No, thank you. And the tractor was coupled up to the end of Thomas's trucks. Thomas huffed and he puffed. His wheels spun and spun. Come on, Thomas. The train is too heavy for you. Take the pressure off your pistons. Couple me up. But Thomas was determined to pull the train on his own. We must not be late for your party. Wheel turn by wheel turn, Thomas puffed away. Thomas and Hank arrived at Marin Station. Visitors waved at Thomas. Thomas wanted to whistle back, but he hadn't any spare steam. Howdy, everybody. Thomas is overloaded right now. I'll whistle for him. Hank had lots of steam, and Hank blew the longest and loudest whistle. Then there was trouble. Thomas had cracked a cylinder. The train was much too heavy. Oh no! Now the deliveries won't be made. You won't be back in time for your welcome party. And I'm not a really useful engine, or even a really strong one. Shucks, Thomas, I'm so sorry. That's too bad. I wanted to show you I wasn't just a fine little steam engine. I wanted to show you I was really strong. So, I didn't want to ask for your help. But I do now. Please, Hank. I'd be happy to help. You give the orders, I'll do the pushing. Hank and Thomas dropped off Farmer McCall's tractor. The workmen were very sorry to see Thomas had broken down. Next, Hank and Thomas chuffed into the shunting yards. The yard manager was waiting. The stone trucks were uncoupled. I hope you're back on track soon, Thomas. Finally, Thomas and Hank delivered the new machines to the factory. Thank you, Thomas. Hank pushed Thomas back to Knapford Station. They arrived just in time for the party. Thank you, Hank. Now all of Sodor knows what a strong engine you are. Hank smiled. And I know something too. You're the engine. Everyone cheers for on Sodor. That's something to be proud of. Thomas smiled. Hank was very special. He was a very special new friend. Toby's special surprise. Toby is a very cheerful steam tram. He isn't as big or as strong as some of the steam engines, but he's always happy to help and willing to work. One spring morning, Toby chuffed cheerfully into Tidmouth Sheds. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The fat controller had arrived. Henry, you are to take the mare to the Scottish castle. Emily, you are to take a party of school children to Blacklock. And Thomas, you must take me to Great Waterton. Toby waited. He hoped he would be given a special job too. And you, Toby, are to go to your shed and wait. Toby was disappointed. His boiler barely bubbled. This afternoon, you must pick up workmen and take them to Great Waterton. Yes, sir. Toby watched his friends steam off to their special jobs. Waiting at his shed wasn't a special job at all. He puffed sadly away. Toby wondered why the other engines had been given specials and he hadn't. I know why, he thought. All the other engines have found something special. Emily found the seals at Black Lock. Henry found the flagpole for the Scottish castle. And Thomas found Great Waterton. If I find something, the Fat Controller will give me a special as well. I've plenty of time before I pick up the workmen. Toby puffed off to find something special. Toby steamed into the hills. Toby looked and looked, but he could see nothing special at all. Suddenly, Toby stopped. He could see a big red bird in a very tall tree. I found something special, he huffed to himself. Toby puffed closer. Now he could see it wasn't a big red bird. It was an old Wellington boot. Oh dear, thought Toby. That's not special. And he puffed on. Toby steamed deeper into the hills and away from Great Waterton. Suddenly, he stopped. Toby could see something glistening and glittering in the afternoon sun. It's a treasure chest, thought Toby excitedly. I've found something very special. Toby puffed closer. Now he could see it wasn't a treasure chest at all. It was a rusty truck of old tin cans. Oh dear, that's not special. Then he heard a whistle. It was Whiff. He had come to take the truck to the rubbish yards. Hello, Toby. Why are you looking at old tin cans? Toby felt very silly. He chuffed quickly away. Toby puffed sadly to a junction. Thomas was on his way back to Tidmouth. Hello, Toby. The Fat Controller's waiting for you at Great Waterton. Bust my buffers. He had spent too much time looking for something special. Now he was late. So Toby steamed quickly away. Toby huffed to the halt. The workmen boarded Henrietta. And they puffed quickly away. Toby knew he had to hurry to get to Great Waterton. Then Toby saw something bright shining beside the track. Maybe this is special. Now the Fat Controller won't be cross with me, Toby thought. But it wasn't something special. It was an old piece of metal stuck in the bushes. Then there was trouble. Toby had puffed so far looking for something special, he had run out of coal. Toby felt terrible. He hadn't found anything special, he hadn't delivered the workmen, and he hadn't been a really useful steam tram. Toby had to do something quickly. It was getting late. Toby asked the workmen to hit the piece of metal as hard as they could with their tools. And I will ring my bell as loudly as I can. Someone at Great Waterton is sure to hear us and come to our rescue. The Fat Controller was waiting at Great Waterton Station. He had heard the banging and Toby's bell ringing. Come along, Whiff. It sounds as though Toby's in trouble. The Fat Controller arrived on Whiff. Toby, what are you doing here? Toby felt very silly. I'm sorry, sir. I ran out of coal because I wanted to find something special. I thought then you would think that I am as special as the other engines. But Toby, you are special. But only when I'm really useful. I know that now. You'll always be special. You are the oldest steam tram on Sodor. Toby felt very happy. Now, let's fetch Rocky and get that old metal to the smelters. Rocky quickly lifted the metal out of the bushes. Toby gasped, and so did the Fat Controller. On the other side of the metal was a picture of a steam tram. It looked just like Toby. Toby, you have found the sign for the Great Waterton Tram Shed. Toby's pistons popped with pride. Now that's special. And Toby couldn't have felt happier to be a steam tram. The party surprise. In the hills of Sodor, it was time for the Thin Controller's winter holiday party. The party was held at his house. All the children looked forward to it. Mr. Percival and his family lived near the engine depot, so all the narrow-gauge engines could enjoy the party too. It was the day of the party and Freddie was working with Colin the crane. They were very good friends. Freddie was excited. This party will be the biggest party ever. Then Mr. Percival arrived. All this cargo must be loaded before the party. Yes, sir, you can rely on us. I must visit Mountain Village Station. I will be back in time for Freddie to take me to the party. Yes, sir. Freddie told Colin all about the party. There'll be decorations, presents, and a big tree covered in lights. Freddie was excited. Colin wasn't. I've never been to a party. Colin was fixed in one place. He couldn't move from the siding. We never have parties at the wharf. Then Freddie had an idea. Maybe this year they could have the party at the wharf. It would be a surprise party for Colin, he thought cheerily. Freddie had to find Mr. Percival. He wanted to ask him if they could have the party at the wharf. I have to go and collect another flatbed. And Freddie raced away. Freddie saw Mr. Percival cycling away. Then he saw Peter Sam. Peter Sam was pulling flatbeds full of presents and coloured lights. They must be for the party, Freddie huffed to himself. I have to stop Peter Sam taking them to Mr. Percival's house. So Freddie didn't chuff after Mr. Percival. He raced after Peter Sam instead. Peter Sam, stop, stop! The party is now at the wharf. Peter Sam was surprised. It will be a surprise party for Colin. I'll take your flatbeds. Will you tell the other engines? All right, Freddie. And Peter Sam raced away. Freddie shunted the flatbeds to Colin. Leave these flatbeds until I come back. Colin was puzzled, but he still had lots to do, so he carried on working. Now I must find Mr. Percival, Freddie thought, and he raced away. On his way, Freddie met Rusty. There was something long and pointy on his flatbed. It's the tree for the party. The party is now at the wharf. Rusty was surprised. I'll take your tree. Will you tell the other engines? All right, Freddie. And Rusty raced quickly away. Freddie puffed and huffed to Colin. Leave this flatbed until I come back. Colin was puzzled, but he still had lots of other work to do, and Freddie raced away. It was getting late, and Freddie still hadn't asked Mr. Percival if they could have the party at the wharf. At last, Freddie puffed up to Mountain Village Station, but Mr. Percival wasn't there. Mr. Percival's already gone back to the wharf. Oh no, I must puff back as quickly as I can. At the wharf, the flatbeds were still waiting to be unloaded. Mr. Percival was cross. Please, unload these at once. Freddie had told Colin to wait for him, but Colin didn't want to get Freddie into trouble. Yes, sir. Then Mr. Percival went to look for Freddie. Soon, Freddie puffed up to Colin. I waited for you, but Mr. Percival told me to finish the job. It's all done now. He was very pleased. Freddie looked down at the canal. He wasn't pleased at all. The lights, presents and the tree were floating away on a barge. The children would soon arrive at Mr. Percival's house, and there was nothing there for the party. And there was nothing at the wharf either. Now no one will have a party, and I still haven't found Mr. Percival, Freddie huffed to himself. He felt terrible. I must stop the barge. Then Freddie saw Mr. Percival. He knew what he had to do. Freddie chuffed over to see Mr. Percival. Where have you been? Freddie told him all about his idea to have the party at the wharf. It was a surprise for Colin, sir. Colin has never been to a party. Mr. Percival thought having the party at the wharf was a very good idea. But you should have asked me first. Ah, yes, sir. If I work quickly, I can still put everything right. All right, Freddie, but hurry now. Freddie raced to catch up with the barge. He called out to the bargeman. Stop! Please turn round and go back to Colin. All right, Freddie. Freddie steamed back to Colin. He told Colin all about the party. I wanted to have a surprise party for you. For me? Colin was delighted and surprised. Soon Colin was unloading everything for the party. Now Freddie felt very happy. He steamed away to Mr. Percival's house. Freddie whistled to the children. The party is now at the wharf. Soon the children were on board, and they whooshed away. All the other engines were waiting at the wharf, even Thomas. Presents were piled high, the tree was covered in lights, and so was Colin. What a wonderful party. Thank you, Freddie. Freddie was delighted. All the engines whistled and tooted. The children cheered and cheered. It was their best winter holiday party ever. Duncan and the hot air balloon. It was a beautiful day in the hills of Sodor. It was also the Thin Controller's twins' birthday. Every year, Duncan gave the twins a special birthday ride. Duncan was excited. At the depot, Duncan was getting ready. He had to look his best. His special birthday flag had been fixed to his cab. Duncan was very proud of his flag. Mr. Percival came to see Duncan. Shall I pick up the twins now? No, Duncan. This year I'm giving them a ride in a hot air balloon for their birthday. Duncan was disappointed. He wanted to give the twins their birthday treat. Duncan, you must collect a hot air balloon from the transfer yards. Yes, sir. And he chuffed sadly away. Duncan pulled into the transfer yards. Thomas had brought the balloon from the docks. The balloon man was filling it with hot air. Hello, Duncan. Hello, Thomas. That's a wonderful balloon. You be sure to puff slowly and carefully. So Duncan huffed slowly away to Mr. Percival's house. On his way, Duncan rolled over a bumpy track. His flatbed clanked, rattled and jiggled. One of the ropes holding down the balloon came undone. Oh dear, thought Duncan. The bumpy track has jiggled the balloon loose. What shall I do? Then an idea flew into Duncan's funnel. If I jiggled the balloon more, it might float away. Then I could give the twins a ride today, and they could have a balloon ride tomorrow. So Duncan began to jiggle backwards and forwards over the bumpy track. The ropes loosened, and the balloon floated away. Hooray! And Duncan chuffed cheerily to the thin controller's house. Duncan puffed round a bend. Then he stopped. The hot air balloon had floated down. It was right in front of him on the track. Duncan bumped into the balloon. Flatten my funnel. Now what should I do? The basket wobbled and one of the sandbags fell off. It made the balloon rise up a little. Duncan was puzzled. He biffed the balloon again. More sandbags fell off. The balloon rose higher and higher and floated away. Duncan was delighted. Duncan chuffed round another bend. Bust my buffers! There, on the bridge above him, was the balloon. I thought the balloon had floated away. What shall I do now? He thought. Duncan chuffed his biggest puff. The hot smoke from his funnel flew into the balloon. It made the balloon get bigger. This gave Duncan an idea. He huffed and puffed and puffed and huffed. The balloon got bigger and bigger and floated away. Duncan was delighted. He raced to the thin controller's house. The thin controller was waiting for him. Where's the hot air balloon, Duncan? It came loose, sir, and floated away. The thin controller was upset. Then there was trouble. The balloon floated down from the sky once again, straight towards the weather vane on the thin controller's roof. It burst on the sharp point. The balloon tumbled down. Fizzling fireboxes. Duncan was upset. Now the twins wouldn't have their balloon ride at all. It's all my fault, sir. I just wanted to give the twins their birthday treat, just as I always have. The thin controller was cross. Duncan, you were going to give the twins their birthday ride. You were going to pick them up and bring them here. Duncan felt even more upset. He wanted the twins to have a happy day. Sir, Peter Sam could pick up the twins. Then I will go and collect the balloon repairman. I'm sure he could fix the balloon. The thin controller thought this was a very good idea. So Duncan puffed quickly away. Duncan raced into Mountain Village Station. The balloon repairman was waiting. We must be quick, sir. The balloon has to be fixed before the twins get home. Duncan chuffed quickly back to the thin controller's house. The thin controller was very pleased to see them. The balloon repairman looked at the hole in the balloon. Oh dear, it's a very big hole. I don't have enough material to fix it. I know, sir. My birthday flag. It might just be big enough. The balloon repairman looked at Duncan's flag. Well, yes, Duncan. That would be perfect. The balloon repairman fixed the balloon just in time. Peter Sam arrived with the twins. They were delighted. Soon, Mr. Percival and the twins were floating high above the island of Sodor. And Duncan felt so happy he thought his boiler would burst. Tram trouble. Thomas the tank engine and Toby the steam tram are very good friends. Toby always tells Thomas when he's worried, and Thomas is always happy to help Toby. One bright morning, Thomas puffed into Arlesdale End. "Hello, Toby. You look happy. The Fat Controller has asked me to lead the parade at the first Great Waterton Festival." Thomas was pleased for his friend. "That's because you're the only steam tram on Sodor. Everyone will cheer for you." Thomas puffed quickly away. The Fat Controller was waiting for him at Great Waterton. He had 3 important jobs to do. Thomas raced into Great Waterton. Fizzling fireboxes. Waiting on the rails was another steam tram. "Thomas, this is Flora. She's the new steam tram on Sodor." Flora smiled her sunniest smile. "Hello, Thomas." Hello. "Flora is to lead the parade with Toby." Thomas gasped. "Take Flora to meet Toby. Then Toby must bring Flora back here for the parade." Thomas was worried. "Toby thinks he's leading the parade all by himself," thought Thomas. "Now he will be very upset. I must keep Flora away from Toby until after the parade." Thomas and Flora arrived at the junction. Suddenly, an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. "I will take Flora to do one of my jobs before we go to Arlesdale End," he chuffed to himself. "By then, Toby will have left to lead the parade." "Let's go to the woodyard first. It won't take long." "That sounds exciting." So they raced away to the woodyard. Thomas collected a flatbed of heavy logs. "Now we can meet Toby." Flora was pleased. "Hooray!" she peeped prettily. They set off. "Toby, Toby, you must go. Hurry now to lead the show," Thomas puffed to himself. Flora and Thomas waited at the junction to Toby's shed. It looked empty. "Come on, Flora." Flora pumped her pistons perkily. Suddenly, Thomas saw steam coming from Toby's shed. Cinders and ashes, he thought. Toby's still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. "Flora, I've just remembered. We must go to the quarry first." Flora was surprised. "If you say so, Thomas." And they puffed away. At the shunting yard, Thomas was coupled up to the stone trucks. "Now we can meet Toby." That made Flora very happy. "Toby, Toby, please have gone. Lead the show, be proud and strong," Thomas puffed to himself. Thomas and Flora arrived at Arlesdale End. This time, Thomas was sure Toby's shed was empty. "Come on, Flora." "Oh, no," thought Thomas. "Toby's still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. Flora, we're late to pick up my load. We must go to the docks." "If you say so, Thomas." And they puffed quickly away. At the docks, Thomas was coupled up to his large load to take to Great Waterton. Thomas was sure Toby would now be leading the parade. "Come on, Flora." Flora's axles ached, but Thomas steamed strongly. Thomas and Flora puffed up to the junction. Then there was trouble. Flora had chuffed too far. She had run out of coal. "I'm sorry, Thomas." Flora's wheels wobbled weakly. Thomas felt bad. He knew it was his fault. Then he heard a chuff and a puff and a ring of a bell. It was Toby. Thomas, I've been waiting for you. Who's that? Cinders and ashes. Toby had met Flora. Neither of them was at the parade. The Fat Controller would be very cross. Thomas couldn't have felt worse. Flora, this is Toby. Toby, this is Flora. Toby looked very happy. Thomas was surprised. I wanted to tell you, Thomas, that I was too scared to lead the parade all by myself, but now Flora and I can lead it together. I thought I knew what you wanted, Toby, but I was wrong. Now Thomas had to quickly put right his mistake. Flora, take my coal. I'll pick up more. Puff as fast as you can to Great Waterton. Toby and Flora soon puffed away. Later, Thomas chuffed into Great Waterton. The parade was ready to leave. Thomas's flatbed was uncovered. Flora gasped. She had a wonderful new tram car. Toby was pleased. Thomas watched his two friends lead the first Great Waterton parade. The children cheered. The brass band boomed. Now I have another best friend, and she's a steam tram too. And Thomas smiled his happiest smile. Don't go back. Thomas is a busy engine. He is very good at shunting. Thomas thinks he can shunt backwards and forwards faster than any other engine. One day, Thomas and Diesel were waiting at the quarry. The quarry manager arrived. Thomas, I have a very important job for you. You must fill lots of trucks with stone. Henry will arrive soon to collect them. Yes, sir. I have an important job too. I'm sure I'll fill my trucks first. No, you won't. I can beat a steamy any day. I'll race you to the hopper. Thomas was sure he could win the race and do his job. But Diesel wanted the race to be tricky. He had a devious idea. We have to go backwards. All right, I'll win. So the two engines raced away, backwards. Steamies are fast and steamies are first, Thomas huffed to himself. Thomas was determined to win. Thomas and Diesel took separate tracks to the hopper. I'm sure to win now, Thomas thought to himself. Thomas steamed towards the hopper. I'm first, but Thomas couldn't see that Diesel had arrived first behind him. Thomas bashed into Diesel. Stone poured down from the hopper. Thomas was covered from funnel to footplate in dust. Ha ha, silly slow steamy, I won the race. Thomas wanted to beat Diesel. We'll have another race to the washdown, and this time I'll win. Well, we still have to race backwards. So together the two engines whooshed away. Thomas and Diesel raced buffer to buffer. Steamies are fast and steamies are first, puffed Thomas to himself. Mavis was at the washdown. She was enjoying a soapy soak, but Thomas couldn't see Mavis. He raced backwards into the washdown and biffed into Mavis, who came off the rails. Ooh! Rattling rods! Ooh! Then Diesel rolled in. I won! Thomas forgot about Mavis. Thomas was enjoying being the winner. Yeah, well, we both won a race. We must have one more. Thomas was no longer thinking about his job. All right, let's race to the engine sheds. Whoever wins this race is the fastest. Diesel revved his engine. Thomas pumped his pistons. And the two engines raced quickly away, backwards. Thomas steamed into the lead. Steamies are fast and steamies are first, he huffed to himself. Thomas had to win this race, but Diesel rattled alongside him. Then there was trouble. Harry and Bert were enjoying a rest at the engine sheds, but Thomas and Diesel couldn't see them. They raced backwards towards Harry and Bert. With a crash and a bash, Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Stones and timber flew everywhere. Bust my buffers! Oh no! Then Henry arrived. I've come to collect my train. Your train isn't ready. Then the yard manager arrived. Thomas, you have pushed Mavis off the rails, and Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Thomas felt worse than ever. Oh no, it's all my fault. I should have done my job and not raced against Diesel. Come on, let's have one more race. No, Diesel, I have an important job to do. Thomas puffed over to Henry. I'll fill your trucks as fast as I can. Your train will soon be ready. And Thomas chuffed quickly away. Thomas felt terrible. I must work very hard to put everything right, he thought to himself. Thomas shunted the trucks under the hopper. Soon they were all filled. And Henry huffed happily away with his train. Then Thomas collected Rocky. Rocky lowered Mavis back onto the tracks. I'm sorry I bashed you. I was trying to win a race. Mavis was relieved to be back on track. Next, Thomas shunted Rocky over to the sheds. Harry and Bert were soon back on the rails. I'm sorry I biffed you. I should have done my job instead of trying to be the fastest. Then Diesel rolled in. We must clear all the trucks of broken stones. Yes, Thomas. At last, all the trucks were loaded with broken rubble from the sheds. So together, Thomas and Diesel shunted the trucks as quickly as they could. At last, all the jobs were done. We still don't know who's the fastest. Let's have another race. All right, but this time we must go forwards. So the two engines raced away to the quarry gates. And they both arrived together. Thomas puts the brakes on. It was a busy time on the island of Sodor. The Sodor River Bridge was being rebuilt. Thomas had been chosen to help the builders. He was very busy and very proud. Thomas was at the yards. He was excited. This is the last delivery. Then the bridge will be finished. Thomas, you must be careful with these blocks. They were made especially for the bridge. There are no more like them anywhere. Yes, sir. And Thomas chuffed carefully out of the yard. Thomas had to stop at a signal, but when he applied his brakes, he heard a squeaking sound. Thomas was worried. Stanley was there. He was taking builders to the bridge. "Hello, Thomas. Your brakes don't sound good. Shall I take your load for you?" "No, thank you. I don't need any help." And Thomas chuffed quickly away. Next, Thomas saw Emily. "Slow down, Thomas. There's a sharp bend ahead." Thomas applied his brakes. The squeak was much louder, and his brakes wouldn't work properly. He raced round the bend much too fast. Thomas's wheels hit a bump in the track. Some of the special blocks bounced off his flatbed. But Thomas didn't know. He was worried about his squeaking brakes. "I know," he thought. "I'll puff more slowly." Thomas arrived at the top of a steep hill. As he went downhill, Thomas started to roll faster. Thomas applied his brakes, but they still weren't working properly, and the squeak was even louder. Gordon was puffing up the hill. "Slow down, Thomas." But Thomas couldn't slow down. He raced into an emergency siding, and he hit the buffers with a big bump. More of the special blocks bounced off his flatbed down a steep bank. Now there was only one stack left. But Thomas still didn't notice. He was still worried about his squeaking brakes. Thomas set off once more, very slowly, for the bridge. Finally, Thomas saw the Sodor River Bridge ahead. The builders were waiting. "Hooray! I've made it! Here I come with the last special delivery!" Thomas knew he had to slow down now, but he couldn't. Thomas's brakes had stopped working altogether. "Fizzling fireboxes! What can I do?" With a clang and a crash, Thomas clanked off the rails. His flatbed bashed his buffers with a bump. The last of the special blocks fell from his flatbed into the water. "Cinders and ashes! I've lost some of the special blocks." "No, Thomas, you've lost them all. Now the bridge can't be finished." "Oh no, this is a disaster." The workmen attached chains to Stanley and Thomas. Slowly, Stanley pulled Thomas back to safety. Thomas was upset. "How did I lose the blocks?" he huffed to himself. Thomas remembered the bump on the bridge. It had made the last blocks fall from his flatbed. "Maybe the other blocks fell when I hit the other bumps," he thought. Thomas remembered where he had hit the buffers. Then he remembered going over the very bumpy track. Thomas knew what he had to do. "Stanley, will you help me, please?" "Of course, Thomas. If you shunt me back along the track to the yard, I can show you where the other special blocks fell off." "That's a very good idea." "We must take Rocky with us. He can load the blocks onto your flatbed. Then you can bring them back to finish the bridge." Soon Stanley was chuffing along. He shunted Thomas behind him. And Murdoch shunted Rocky. They reached the bottom of the steep hill. "This is where I bashed the buffers with a bump." "Hooray! There they are!" Soon, Rocky had lifted the blocks onto Stanley's flatbed, and they all puffed on. Thomas and Stanley found the rest of the special blocks at the sharp bend, and Rocky set to work. Soon, Stanley shunted Thomas back into the yard, and he set off proudly with the special blocks. Good luck, Stanley. I was silly not to have asked for your help. Thank you. A worker looked at Thomas's wheels. I've come to have my brakes fixed. They make a terrible squeak. Later that day, Thomas chuffed back to the Sodor River Bridge. Thomas put his brakes on. There was no squeak at all. He stopped right beside Stanley. My brakes are fixed now. So is the Sodor River Bridge. All thanks to my friend, Stanley. Gordon takes a shortcut. Gordon is a very proud engine. He likes to do important jobs. Gordon thinks he knows the Sodor Railway better than anyone. Gordon was at Knapford Station waiting for Stanley. Stanley was late. Gordon had to take Stanley's passengers on to Brendam Docks. At last, Stanley puffed in. Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. I took a shortcut, but I got lost. I never get lost. I know the railway better than any other engine. Some very important passengers and a group of workmen are waiting at Great Waterton. The first engine to arrive will pick up the very important passengers. The second will collect the workmen. Gordon didn't want to pick up the workmen. He wanted to pick up the very important passengers. I've got to get coal and water. See you at Great Waterton, Gordon. And Stanley chuffed cheerily away. Gordon was determined to arrive at Great Waterton first, so he raced off to Brendam Docks. Gordon delivered Stanley's passengers and puffed away to Great Waterton as quickly as his boiler could bubble. Gordon puffed up to a junction. He could see Stanley ahead. Gordon was worried. Then he had an idea. If I take a shortcut, he huffed to himself, I will arrive at Great Waterton before Stanley, and I won't get lost. So Gordon took the other track. Gordon steamed happily along his shortcut. He stopped at the signal. Duck was having a washdown. Duck was surprised to see Gordon so far from the express track. Are you lost? Would you like some help? No, thank you. I'm not lost. And Gordon chuffed away. Gordon steamed further along his shortcut. I should be at Great Waterton by now, he thought. Gordon puffed around a bend. Ahead, there was a bridge. Hooray! That must be the Great Waterton Bridge. But under the bridge, it wasn't Great Waterton. It was a repair yard. Gordon saw Oliver and Toad. They were having their wheels oiled. They were surprised to see Gordon so far from the express track. Are you lost? Would you like some help? No, thank you. I'm not lost. And Gordon chuffed quickly away. Gordon steamed along. Now he was more worried. His shortcut was taking longer and longer. Then he saw another bridge. Hooray! Here's the Great Waterton Bridge. But under the bridge, it wasn't Great Waterton. It was the shunting yard of a logging station. Gordon had never been here before. Then in the distance, he heard Stanley's whistle from the track below. Stanley is catching up, he huffed to himself. I must race ahead. Gordon pumped his pistons. Then there was trouble. Ben was shunting a flatbed of logs. Gordon biffed straight into them. The logs started to roll down the hill. Bust my buffers, those logs will block the lower track. I must stop Stanley. But Gordon didn't know which track to take. Gordon was lost. What have you done? Gordon knew his shortcut hadn't worked. Now he needed to ask for help. Can you help me, Ben? I have to get to the lower track as fast as possible. Of course. Ben was happy to help. Soon the track was clear, and Gordon steamed away. He had to warn Stanley. Then Gordon arrived at a fork in the track. He didn't know which way to go next. Gordon saw Oliver and Toad puffing toward him. Please, stop! I'm lost. I need to get to the lower track as quickly as possible. Oliver was happy to help. Take the left track. And Gordon raced on. Gordon arrived at another fork in the track. He didn't know which way to go. Then he saw Duck chuffing over a bridge. Please stop! I'm lost and I'm in a hurry. Duck was happy to help. You must take the track on the right. Thank you. And Gordon steamed off. At last, Gordon puffed on to the lower track. He could see the logs had fallen across Stanley's line. Then he saw Stanley chuffing round the bend. Gordon blew his whistle long and loud. Stop, Stanley! Stop! Stanley applied his brakes and screeched to a halt just in front of the logs. Soon Rocky arrived. He cleared the logs in no time. I'm sorry, Stanley. This was all my fault. I wanted to take a shortcut. I wanted to pick up the very important passengers. But now I want you to collect them. Stanley was delighted. Later, the very important passengers were all on board Stanley's carriages. Stanley felt very proud. Gordon puffed in to collect the workmen. I won't be taking any shortcuts this time. Stanley laughed, and Gordon smiled at his new friend. Mountain Marvel. The narrow-gauge engines in the hills of Sodor always want to hear stories. Their favourite ones are about a magical engine called Proteus. Peter Sam enjoys these stories most of all. One morning, Peter Sam puffed into the transfer yards. He was very excited. Thomas is collecting the famous Storyteller, Mary Marvel. She is going to read at a special show. All the little engines whistled and wheeshed. I hope she tells stories about Proteus. Then the thin controller arrived. He gave them all special jobs. There is a lot to do. Please be back in good time for Miss Marvel. The little engines peeped their whistles excitedly. Peter Sam collected the cream churns quickly. I hope I'm the first to see Miss Marvel, he huffed to himself. So Peter Sam raced away. The churns clinked and clanked, and his wheels clickety-clacked. Freddie was waiting at a junction. He had a lot to do. You're in a hurry. Yes, I want to be the first engine to see Miss Marvel. I'm going to take a shortcut to the showground. And Peter Sam raced away down an old twisty track. Peter Sam huffed and puffed to the top of the old twisty track. Whee! He whistled as he rolled down the other side. Then he saw a thick hedge across the track. Oh no! Peter Sam crashed through the hedge. With a clang and a prang, he hit something hard. Fizzling fireboxes. There, in front of Peter Sam, was a statue of Proteus. It was sitting on a rusty old flatbed. Some farm workers appeared to see what the noise was. Oh my, look! It's a statue of Proteus. It looks very old. Peter Sam thought his boiler would burst. Then an idea flew into his funnel. No one must see the statue before the show. It will be my wonderful surprise, and I will be the star of the show, he thought. Peter Sam tooted to the workers. Please, can you cover the statue? I'll be back to collect it soon. Peter Sam chuffed quickly back to the top of the old track. He stopped at the junction. Duncan chuffed up. He still had to collect benches for the show. Duncan, when you come back, don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Thank you very much. And Duncan chuffed off. Next, Mighty Mac pulled up. He still had to pick up flowers for the show. When you come back, please don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Thank you. And Mighty Mac chuffed off. Then Freddy puffed up. He still had to pick up lanterns for the show. Freddy, when you come back, please don't take the shortcut. There's something blocking the track. Ah, thank you. And he chuffed off. Peter Sam was pleased. Now the statue of Proteus was sure to be a surprise. The farm workers had covered the statue of Proteus. Peter Sam was coupled up to the flatbed. Peter Sam pumped his pistons. The cream churns were heavy, but Proteus' statue was even heavier. Peter Sam huffed and puffed to the top of the hill. Now I can roll down the other side, he thought. Peter Sam raced down the hill. There was a junction ahead. Oh no, this load is too heavy. Help! Peter Sam smashed into a buffer. The cream churns crashed. The junction was blocked. Bubbling boilers! I'll never be the star of the show now. The other engines can't get through. I've spoiled everything for everyone. Then Peter Sam heard the whistles of his friends. Duncan, Freddy and Mighty Mac arrived at the junction. They were surprised at the mess. Peter Sam felt very silly. I'm sorry. I wanted to be the star of Miss Marvel's show. He told them about finding the statue of Proteus. The engines gasped. The statue belongs to us all. Please, will you help me take it to the show? His friends were happy to help. Duncan chuffed away to find an engineer for Peter Sam. Mighty Mac puffed to tell Mr. Percival about the statue. Freddy, will you take Proteus to the show? Freddy was delighted. It would be an honor. Soon the engineer fixed Peter Sam's brakes. Now you're ready to go, Peter Sam. Later, Peter Sam collected fresh cream from the farm. I know Miss Marvel's show has started, but all the other engines will be there to enjoy the statue. Peter Sam chuffed his long way back. Peter Sam puffed up quietly. Miss Marvel was just finishing her last story. Oh my! The statue is still covered. Today, one of our engines found something very special. So this is for all the little engines of the hills, because you are all special. Everyone gasped at the wonderful statue. The engines whistled. Peter Sam smiled. We are all stars of the show. The Man in the Hills. Thomas puffs proudly all over the island of Sodor. He is especially happy to visit his friends on the narrow gauge railway. There is always something special to do or to see in the high hills. One day, Thomas puffed into the wharf. Lots of his friends were there. Hello! It was the Thin Controller's birthday. The little engines had a lot to do before they could go to his party. Thomas was excited. I've brought a present from the Fat Controller. It's a special tent to have the birthday party in. We have special presents too. I'm taking decorations. And I'm taking flowers. We're taking banners and balloons. They were all very excited. I'm going to tell him a Man in the Hills story. They are his favourites. Thomas had never heard of the Man in the Hills. He was a very tall man, dressed all in white, and he lived high in the hills. No one has ever found him. An idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Maybe I can find him and bring him to Mr. Percival's party. That would be the most special present of all. I can help you. I know the hills better than anyone. No, thank you. I'm sure I can find him on my own. Thomas was uncoupled from his flatbed. Please don't leave for the party without me. And he chuffed quickly away. Thomas raced through the hills. The Man in the Hills, the Man in the Hills. I know that I'll find him. I'm sure that I will. He chuffed to himself. Thomas puffed up to a hillside halt. There was a man dressed all in white. It's the Man in the Hills, he thought excitedly to himself. Please come with me to see Mr. Percival. Yes, Thomas. Right away. So the man climbed on board. Thomas puffed proudly into the wharf. I found the Man in the Hills. The man stepped from the cab. I'm not the Man in the Hills. I'm the dairyman. Thomas was surprised. Fizzling fireboxes. Scarloey and Rheneas giggled. We can help you find the Man in the Hills. No, thank you. And Thomas steamed quickly away. Thomas searched high and low. The Man in the Hills, the Man in the Hills. I know that I'll find them. I'm sure that I will, he huffed to himself. Thomas chuffed towards the mill. A man was waiting nearby. He was white from head to foot. This must be the Man in the Hills, thought Thomas. Please come with me to see Mr. Percival. Right away, Thomas. So the man climbed on board. Thomas puffed into the wharf. I've found the Man in the Hills. The man stepped down. I'm not the Man in the Hills. I'm the miller. Thomas could see the miller was no longer white. All the flour had blown off him. Thomas was upset. The miller was worried. I still have to make the birthday cake for the party. And I have to make the ice cream. The little engines were cross. You said you'd bring the best present of all. Now Mr. Percival doesn't have any presents, and we're all late. Thomas felt terrible. I wanted to find the most special present all on my own, but all I've done is spoil the party for everyone, especially for Mr. Percival. So Thomas asked Scarloey and Rheneas to take the party tent. Please, hurry. The dairyman and the miller boarded Thomas, and Thomas raced quickly away. Thomas was determined to put everything right. Thomas delivered the dairyman to the dairy to make the ice cream, and delivered the miller to the mill. At last the cake was baked, and Thomas chuffed quickly away with it. Thomas met Freddie at a junction. Freddie was on his way to the party. I have to get the birthday cake to the party as quickly as I can. Please, help me find a shortcut. Freddie was happy to help. Come on now, follow me. And together they puffed quickly away. Thomas and Freddie stopped at the Green Hills Junction. Suddenly, Thomas gasped. Bust my boiler! Look! There, all in white, was a man. He was carved into the hillside. He shone in the moonlight. It's a man in the hills. Thomas, you found him. Suddenly, Thomas had an idea. Freddie, please bring Mr. Percival here with all the engines. And Freddie raced away. Soon all the engines were gathered by the man in the hills. The engines gasped, and everyone was delighted. There, far away and high up in the high hills, Sir Handel was ready to tell his story. And Mr. Percival had the best birthday present ever from all of the engines. Push me, pull you. One bright spring morning at the coal yard, the yard manager was talking to Scar Lowy. A puppet show is coming. The children will be excited. No one in the hills has ever seen a puppet show. Scar Lowy wanted to pull the puppet show special, so he raced away. Scar Lowy puffed into the transfer yards. Thomas and the Thin Controller were already there. Please, sir, may I pull the puppet show special? That's a fine idea, Scar Lowy. Scar Lowy's boiler bubbled with excitement. Watch out! They're heavy! Scar Lowy buffered up. Slowly, Scar Lowy puffed away. The trucks were heavy. But Scar Lowy was happy. The puppet show special was his. Scar Lowy heaved and hauled up the steep hill. At last, he reached the top. Rheneas was there. He was very excited to see the puppet show special. Those trucks look heavy. I could help you. But Scar Lowy didn't want to share his special with Rheneas. No, thank you. I can pull these trucks on my own. I'm stronger than you. No, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Then an idea flew into Scar Lowy's funnel. We'll put the trucks between us and pull our hardest. The strongest engine will pull the puppet show special. Rheneas was soon coupled up to the back of the train. They pulled with all their strength and steam. First, the trucks trundled one way, then they trundled the other. Scar Lowy was determined to win. Then Rheneas heard a creaking and a cranking. He knew the couplings were being pulled too hard, but Scar Lowy wouldn't give up. I must win, he thought. Then there was trouble. With a crack and a clank, Rheneas's coupling snapped. The puppet show trucks bashed and bumped into Scar Lowy and pushed him down the other side of the hill. Scar Lowy was scared. He tried to apply his brakes, but they wouldn't work. Scar Lowy flew faster and faster down the steep hill. Scar Lowy saw Duncan. He was pushing trucks of bunting onto the main track. Look out, Duncan! Stop! But it was too late. Scar Lowy crashed into Duncan's trucks. Bunting flew into the air. It fell all over Scar Lowy. Duncan was cross. Oh, sorry, Duncan, but I must get the puppet show to the children. Skarloey raced on. The puppet show special clattered and chattered. Then Skarloey saw Rusty at a junction ahead. Rusty was pulling trucks of special ice cream. Out of my way! I can't stop! Rusty stopped right across the tracks. Skarloey bashed into Rusty's trucks. Ice cream flew into the air and splattered all over the engines. Rusty was cross. Now there would be no ice cream at the puppet show. Sorry, Rusty, but I must get the puppet show to the children. So Skarloey clattered on. Skarloey was puffing towards Percival Pond. Then there was trouble. Skarloey went round the bend too fast. He steamed into a siding. Skarloey bashed through the buffers. With a splash, a sploosh and a splosh, Skarloey plunged into Percival Pond. Fizzling fireboxes. I wanted to pull the puppet show special on my own. Now look what I've done. The children won't have ice cream or flags, and they won't have their puppet show. Help! But there was no one there to hear. Then Skarloey heard a whistle he knew. That's Rheneas, he thought. Rheneas puffed to the edge of the pond. Skarloey had never been happier to see his friend. I puffed as quickly as I could. Ha! I thought you might need my help. I do. I wanted to show you that I was the strongest, but all I have shown you is that I am the silliest. But Rheneas was happy to help. Slowly Rheneas heaved and hauled his friend out of the pond. At last, Skarloey was back on the rails, but his firebox was out, and his coal was wet. Rheneas, you must take the puppet show to the children. I have other jobs to do. Thank you, Skarloey. And Rheneas puffed proudly away with the puppet show special. Skarloey had a lot to do. He delivered new trucks of ice cream to Rusty. Then Skarloey found Duncan. Duncan's trucks were now filled with the bunting. I'm going to be late for the puppet show. Don't worry, Duncan. I'll help you. We'll steam to the showground in no time. Duncan and Skarloey arrived just in time. The children were gathered round the puppet show. Welcome everyone to the first puppet show in the hills. The children cheered. Skarloey puffed up to Rheneas. You're my best friend, Rheneas, and there's nothing stronger than friendship. Best friends. Thomas and Percy are best friends. They tell each other everything. They even have a best friend's whistle. It was a busy day at the quarry. Thomas and Percy were working together. Together, Thomas and Percy happily tooted their best friend's whistle. My favourite days are when we work together. Then Neville arrived to collect some trucks. He was excited. The brass band has arrived at Brendam Docks. Hooray! I like the brass band. So do I, but I'm never asked to pull them. If you go to the washdown now, you'll soon be as shiny as a trumpet. Then maybe the Fat Controller will ask you to collect them. Percy was excited. Thank you, Thomas. The two engines tooted their best friend's whistle, and Percy puffed happily away. Later, the fat controller had arrived. He was in a hurry. Thomas, you are to pick up the brass band from the docks, and don't forget to have a wash down. Thomas was worried. He knew Percy wanted to pick up the brass band, but he didn't know how to tell Percy that the fat controller had asked him to do it. Then Thomas saw Percy puffing back to the quarry. Look at me, Thomas. I'm as shiny as a trumpet. Thomas didn't know what to say. He didn't want to upset his best friend. The fat controller's sure to choose me now. This made Thomas feel even worse. He puffed quickly away. Where you going, Thomas? I have another job. Percy tooted his best friend's whistle, but Thomas couldn't toot back. Thomas was enjoying his washdown. Then he saw Percy in the distance. Thomas still didn't know how to tell Percy about the special, so he hid. Percy puffed past. He didn't see Thomas. Thomas was relieved. He chuffed out of the shed. He raced away to collect Annie and Clarabelle. Then Thomas saw Percy again. I still don't know how to tell Percy about the brass band, thought Thomas. So he took a different track to the docks. Thomas knew it would take him longer. I must hurry. I don't want to be late, he thought to himself. Later, Thomas was steaming along. Cinders and ashes. There's Percy again. He was sure Percy was going to see him this time, so Thomas hid behind Duck. Percy puffed past. He didn't see Thomas hiding behind Duck's long line of trucks. Thank you, Duck. Duck looked puzzled. Thomas steamed onto the docks as fast as his pistons would pump. Thomas was late for the brass band. They were waiting on the dockside. All aboard. Then he saw some mail trucks. He knew Percy would soon come to collect them. Hurry up! The band hurried, but the trumpet player had left his trumpet behind, right at the end of the dockside. So Thomas had to wait. Just then, Percy arrived. Hello, Thomas. Percy saw that Thomas was collecting the brass band. He was very upset. Why didn't you tell me, Thomas? I tell you everything. Thomas felt terrible. He tooted his best friend's whistle, but Percy didn't whistle back. Thomas felt worse than ever. He puffed out of the docks with the brass band. Thomas arrived at Great Waterton. The fat controller was waiting to welcome the brass band. Thomas still felt very unhappy. He had let his best friend down. Thomas, you must come back at the end of the concert to pick up the brass band. Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Sir, can Percy pick up the band? Percy is delivering the mail. If I pull Percy's mail trucks, then could he pick up the band? The fat controller agreed. So Annie and Clarabelle were uncoupled, and Thomas steamed off to find his best friend. Now Thomas really wanted to find Percy, but Percy was nowhere to be found. Thomas was worried. The concert would finish soon, and the band would be waiting. Then Thomas saw Percy. He was waiting at a signal. I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was picking up the band. I'm busy. I have to pull the mail. I've something to tell you. I'll pull the mail for you. Then you can go and pick up the brass band and take them to the docks. Percy beamed from buffer to buffer. Thank you, Thomas. He was very excited. Thomas buffered up to Percy's mail trucks and quickly pulled away. He was pleased to help his best friend. Percy steamed off to pick up Annie and Clarabelle. He couldn't wait to collect the brass band. Later, Thomas puffed into Great Waterton. Percy was waiting for the band. You are my best friend, Percy. From now on, I will always tell you everything. And they tooted their best friend's whistle for everyone to hear.
でも